That's a tough one. I didn't rehearse anything or any type of script that I was going to say, leading into this, like, oh, Roma ultimately don't make it past Cremonese after Cremonese failed to win in over 30 games or anything fancy like that. I'm just left feeling disappointed, and I think every Roma fan has to feel that way right now. And Cremonese are not a great side. They're a Serie B1. They will be a Serie B1 next year. Ultimately, I feel like it's such a missed opportunity because 3 points are left. Not even one. Roma did not deserve to lose today. However, they didn't deserve to win. And that comes from a quality standpoint. And I'm thinking that it's hard for this team to recover when they go down because they're forced then to play in a way that they're not trained to. They're not one that gets a lot of scoring opportunities in general. In the first half, I think there was maybe one, perhaps. And in the second half, when things just go sour, Roma is then forced to reinvent and find a way to score. And ultimately, it proves to be too tough for them because of that quality in front of goal, perhaps a little bit of the rotation. I want to look at the starting lineup today. As we can see here, I'm going to move a little bit out of the way. We see Ibanez. Let me get the banner out of here too. We see Ibanez leading after Chris Smalling was booked for suspension, so he was not eligible for this match. And Roma has really struggled without him. If we think of some of the past losses, the shock losses that the Giallorossi have suffered, let's go into last season. Venezia, Bodo Glimt is up there. So these are two, I believe also the derby was without Chris Smalling. So a few major matches where he doesn't play and Roma gets shock losses, and it happens again today. So the team is unable to cope without Chris. Ibanez did an okay job, but he's not used to having those responsibilities of leading. He usually plays as the left center back, and he has to get slotted here as the center backs. Mancini, I thought he actually probably played the best out of any Roma player today. And then ahead of him in the starting lineup, we see Wijnaldum, who gets his first start. I was very happy to see that. I know he was pumped up, and he shows his quality. It's going to take some time for him to tactically adapt, to figure out exactly where he needs to be at all times in this midfield. However, you can immediately see the jump out there. Spinazzola gets to start with Cristante and Zalewski onto the right, and then Pellegrini enters back into the starting lineup with Dybala on his right and Belotti up ahead. So Belotti, the big surprise there probably with Abraham being fit. The reason why Mourinho said he did not start Abraham is because he felt that he was physically fit, but perhaps not mentally fit, like he wasn't just in the right headspace to come back yet. Guys, let me know how you feel about this one. Drop some comments, drop some likes as well, even if you're not liking Roma's scoreline today. And a little bit more about the starting lineup. Pellegrini is re-entered after his issues earlier or later, last week in the last 30-on match, where I thought Roma played a bit more dynamic. And here, when he comes back, he's going to have to figure out how to play with Dybala. You're not taking Paulo out of the starting lineup. So I saw a criticism of Cassano the other day where he said Pellegrini really needs to show up. He said when two great players are on the pitch together, like he's saying, like I was with Francesco Totti, we always figured out a way to play together, and we did so very good. Like we had such a connection together. And Pellegrini is in a position now where he has to adapt and he has to figure out where he's going to be. Really, that's Mourinho's job. He's going to figure out how to play these two together, because when you have Dybala dropping back, well, Pellegrini is not going to be running down the flank. He's not going to be taking the line further. He's not going to be pressing or going off the shoulder of the last defender the way that Stefan El Shaarawy would. So I feel that Roma becomes limited when you have these two players as of this very moment. Now, Jose, like I said, it's his job to figure that out. But you add that with Belotti, who's more of a stationary striker in the sense that he's not agile. He's not going to bring the ball up. He's somebody who's more of a target man. He holds it up and gets his guys incorporated in the attack. But like I said, you have two players who are dropping back in order to receive the ball, two players who like the ball at their feet. So, okay, then who presses the back line back? And that's exactly one of the issues that you see today is Roma doesn't make many scoring opportunities at all until it's like, balls to the wall, and they throw every single option that they have from Solbach into El Shaarawy, and it's ultimately fruitless. But I think that Cristante and Wijnaldum, there could be a future there with those guys. I don't know how Pellegrini will fit in, to be honest, into a full healthy starting lineup going into next season, and I think that will become something that really needs to get figured out. What do you guys think about that? Spinazzola, yeah, like what a fantastic goal. And I'm not going to go on too much about like trying to make this into a good scenario, but I just want to highlight the fact that that was an extraordinary goal and it's almost reminiscent of the one that Mancini, that ball that he played onto Zaniolo to win the Conference League final last season. But I would say even a better pass. He was, I can't say enough about Gianluca Mancini this season. But as we look around, I think that Rui Patricio is definitely not feeling good after that one. It was slow the way that he came out. Who was it against? El Correque? Whoever it was slow, methodical, predictable for him to get past. You pay the price, man. That's how it, how it just goes on. I'm going to jump into some comments today. Enzo's checking in. Yes, disheartening is definitely a word I would use as well. Cremonese is this season's Venezia. Morin says, yeah, it's our bestia nera, as they said on Rete Sport. It's Roma's taboo. It's the one that keeps scaring them. They can't get past them. It's infuriating because you gotta, I know Roma for the past 2-3 years has struggled against the big guys, but look, small guys, you gotta take them out. It just has to be done the way that they played against like Verona. Roma played so good against Verona, who were butchers. They have the most fouls and I think even maybe the most yellow cards in the league, yet they figured out a way to play. And I just wonder if a lot of this comes back to Dybala Pellegrini in the way that Roma's attack is set up. Marco says, I left a serious question on your tweet, so no more comments from me. I said time and time again, Mourinho's anti-football tactics will lead us nowhere. Let's pray Mourinho leaves. On the flip side, to the tactics, we didn't take our chances either. And I don't know if I wouldn't blame the coach for that. I think that just comes from like poor finishing. How many times this year has Abraham or Belotti had a really good chance and they put it over? Even Dybala had a couple opportunities. He didn't have a great game today. So as I'm speaking about Pellegrini, like I don't want it to seem like I'm targeting the captain because I think that there's blame to be shared throughout the team because that is the job. The mission was not accomplished today. I have to ask who's next in line to be under the bus now, whose career will Mourinho ruin just to put the blame off of himself. I pretty much agree with what Mourinho had to say today. And he said, non meritavamo di perdere, ma sicuramente non di vincere. We didn't deserve to lose, but surely not to win. And I think that's the truth. I thought that Roma played good enough to scrape out a draw. Is that saying much against one of the last place teams? No, but also, this Cremonese did beat Napoli. I think they're a little bit better than what their standing suggests. So, and then he says on the 1-1, we had the feeling that everything was possible and we could win. And then the situation in the area, it was 2-1 for them. So he's saying after the penalty, 2-1 for them. So like, and I felt that way too, guys. Did you not? Like as soon as Roma scored, to me, it felt like that they were going to be able to immediately jump back in this one and that they were even going to win. I think Dybala had an opportunity around like the 71st minute or so, and that gets saved. It was from outside the box. It wasn't like, this brilliant chance for him. However, we just simply didn't do enough in front of goal, and I think it really comes back to that. Solbakken perhaps didn't have enough time to influence it, but I don't criticize Mourinho for the substitutions at all because that wouldn't have been the right time because Roma was coming back, and this goal unfortunately happens really late. Couple more comments coming in. Enzo says, we're really missing threats from long range when you look at the likes of Totti, Pjanic, Nainggolan, etc. I feel like besides Dybala, we don't have any threats from outside the box. You know who is actually a threat from outside the box is Cristante. And I know maybe some of you just laughed right now because you don't think of somebody who scores a lot like Cristante, but he has a really powerful shot. And we're not too far removed from some great goals of his. I know I keep mentioning like those Atalanta days, but if he could get a little bit forward, if Roma maintained possession a little bit higher up the pitch, he would get more of those opportunities to demonstrate that. But it's true that besides that, there aren't really too many big risks from outside the box and players like, think of, I know this is an extreme example, but Biragi's goal yesterday for Fiorentina, and he has those smarts from a long range to, he plays that 64, 63, 65-yard free kick. It's unbelievable. Matt says, is it wrong to think that everyone is to blame for today? Too much rotation, bad tactics, no hustle, poor decision-making, etc. Yeah, I agree, man. Like, it's a little bit of everything. Um, like you said, I thought the rotation, I was a little scared. I saw Vinaldum in there, but then I see Belotti, and I'm like, ooh, okay, because Abraham is the top striker on the team from a quality and technical standpoint. But Roman asks, did I like Gini today? I did. I think he offers a lot, and I was proud to see him getting forward. I was happy to see him get his first start in like 280 days, or I should say his first real input in that amount of time. He's gotten back since then, of course, but he didn't feature in any starts for Roma. I believe this was his first today, because even in the first game of the season, he came on as a substitute. Um, Roman also says, it's incredible how dependent we are on Chris Smalling, and I echo that. At the beginning of this episode, I was mentioning how many of Roma's really bad losses or predicted wins where they didn't get the win were without Chris. Venezia last year, the Derby, and I think even Verona. Yeah, Verona. And it says that's a good call. Cristante has had some good goals and attempts from outside the box. I just don't feel like Cristante is very good at creating his own opening to get good attempts off consistently. Yeah, no. So he's not going to take a guy on 1v1. He's not going to dribble past two defenders. But if Roma do possess and they're shifting and pulling the defense, the opposition out of spaces, then those spaces will come for him, and those opportunities and those clear lines of sight on goal. But I don't think that's going to happen much under Mourinho, to be honest. And Enzo says, I feel like the others I mentioned above were always able to really create their own opening and then let it fly. Yeah, like I missed that unpredictability from Pjanic. Pjanic was so good at maintaining possession, making the little passes, that I don't know if he was totally, if the Roma managers at the time got the best out of him. I feel like Spalletti did. He knew how to use him. And but Pjanic, also made his own bed. He had some really good years at Juventus, but he kind of fell off after that. He didn't become like a Modric type, I think, as some would have thought. Pellegrini, the best captain in Rome at the moment. The best captain? Well, he is the captain. Is he the best leader on the pitch? I think Chris Smalling is the best leader on the pitch. Some other comments here. So Eric says, I just started watching Serie A. Should I support Roma? Well, I tell you this. If you want to support a team that's always going to win championships and be in the Champions League, then you should probably look at a team like Juventus or even a Milan or an Inter. Roma is, throughout its history, a team that's had great moments but never consistent success. I hope that with this ownership now, maybe it is a great time to become a fan. Maybe in 2-3 years, Roma's doing great things and in a much better position. But I'll tell you, Eric, you gotta be strong if you're gonna be a Roma fan. And there's a lot of highs and lows, so very much a roller coaster. Kaze says hello. He's checking in. A couple more things I wanted to get to today. We're 13 minutes in. So, key moments. That goal by Sadyat was honestly a brilliant one. Of course, right? When Roma faced the worst team in the league, what happens? They just feel it, and they get a goal which 99.9 times that they shoot that goal, it's not going to happen. But today, it does. So that I saw this as a key moment of the match, because I think that it made Roma play a style which they didn't want to. And then the Mancini-Spinac goal is, like I said, was fantastic. And then the referee's error. I don't think it was an error. I'm going to actually edit that. I think the referee was right. It was a legitimate PK. I'm just going to put the PK here as I edit this. And it's one that Roma shouldn't have succumbed. It's one that Roma wouldn't have given up, probably if Chris Smalling was there. Statistically, we can say that, right? That's not just me saying these guys didn't do enough today, but statistically. Mourinho put these guys in here. Subs: Tammy, El Shaarawy, Sobak, and Matic Karsdorp. I'm glad, like I've said, to see Karsdorp. I thought he was somewhat influential in the few minutes that he got today. Tammy, of course, comes on late, SES, and it's just too late. Mourinho goes out in the 47th minute, 46th with the red card, and that should also be a defining moment, one of the key moments of this match, because having him on the touchline and off, well, there's a big difference with relaying instructions and being able to shout and getting players organized and exactly where you want them to be. Those are, that's a component of coaching, is being on the touchline. But Some more comments from him. He says, now I'm not thinking about the Champions League. He was asked, does this put Roma in outside, and statistically it does. Roma's not in the top four right now. But he says, I don't think about that. I don't even think about Juventus. I think about I think about match after match. So he's like, I think about right now, I'm thinking about this very moment, not what's going to happen on Sunday, not the training ground tomorrow. He's like, I'm thinking about this and reflecting on it. I know people get fed up and it's easy to get bored and aggravated with Mourinho's tactics, but this is defensive counter-attacking football. And it's based on the fact that you do convert your chances when you get them. The problem now is that Roma statistically has suffered with XG or just creating chances in general. So, and that is something which comes along, like it was mentioned here earlier, with heavy rotation. Guys, keep throwing the comments in. That's as far as, I've got this tasty one for you. Cremonese went into the break leading a Serie A match for the first time since 1996, when the Titanic was still being filmed, as the Serie A Twitter handle reminded me of before coming on air. What else do we got? I think that was it. Just some comments. Let's keep it going, guys. Kaza says, as bad as this game was, I think it was a game that under normal circumstances and a more competent ref, Roma would have won. Not an excuse, but important to notice. Refereeing was bad today. Infuriating that some of these calls just go against Roma. I don't know if Roma really gets off easy with too many calls ever. It seems like they always have a way of inflicting harm on this team. But I agree with you in that I don't think it is the end of the world. I still think Roma have a lot to fight for. I still think Champions League is possible. Matt caught me. Roman says, with Gini, I think we can play Dybala in Pellegrini's position and Tammy plus Belotti or Tammy plus Ola. Let's think. Who do you think is the top three right now? If you had to pick, and you're the manager, you're Jose, and Roma face Juventus on Sunday, who is your starting trident? Mine is obviously Dybala. Of course, everyone's going to be Paolo. And then Tammy. And then I go El Shaarawy. That is my top three. Doesn't include the captain in the trident. In the midfield, I'd have to think about that between Gini and Cristante Matic. That I got to consider. But my top three, El Shaarawy on the left, sneaking in behind, making those runs, working hard in defense as well as attack. Tammy leading the line because I still think he's Roma's best. He's the guy who's most likely to get a goal inside the box. And then Dybala dropping back and making the attack click. But let me know what you think about that. Who's your top trident? Kazi says, Cremonese's first goal was one of the best goals of this season. Yes, it was. And the second goal was led by a very lucky touch, a striker that was onside by mere centimeters, and a very dubious penalty. Yeah, that's true. I think it was Mancini's left leg, which kept him onside. Just a hair's splitting hairs there. So you give advantage to the attacker in that situation, but it's luck played a part today. Not making excuses. Luck definitely did. But Roma should have done better, especially in the first half. And yeah, we go back to that first half, as Kaze mentions here, where don't create enough. If you don't create, you don't score, regardless if it's on a counter or you're holding possession, making a lot of chances. Even if you're countering, you should have a few here and there, 3, 4 per half. Guys, let's talk soon. I know that we have Juventus coming up. We also have Real Sociedad on Thursday, March 9th. And then Roma Sassuolo back at the Olimpico on March 12th. That's a 1 p.m. game on a Sunday, or 7 p.m. Italian time. And then it's back with Real Sociedad in Spain on March 16th. And then a few days after that, Lazio-Roma, March 19th. And that caps off March here. So we've got Juventus, Real Sociedad, Sassuolo, Real Sociedad, and then Lazio. That's an extremely difficult March. Now, I think that Roma left 5 points on the table this February. Whether it was, who did we tie against? It wasn't Verona. It was somebody smaller off the top of my head. And of course today, leaving that on the plate. But imagine what things would be like if Roma beat Juve and then win the Derby. So I'm just thinking the possibilities where this could still be a really great season, where things can still be, important things can still be accomplished. And let's be honest, there's no difference between second or fourth. It would have been nice to take second place today, but there's still a lot of hope in this season, and we'll see what happens in the Europa League. I don't know too much about Real Sociedad, but I'll definitely be doing a deep dive on them soon, getting to know the ins and outs of this Spanish team. So let's hope for the best. Let's hope that things start to click and we find out who really is the best starting 11 now with Wijnaldum back when Roma approach, or host, I should say, Juventus. Also, shout out to the fans who are back. You could hear them today. So Roma's ban after Napoli for away fans was finally lifted, and you can hear them singing quite a few chants and out-singing the Cremonese fans 100%. I'm going to read some. Yes, against Lecce, Roman says. That's where we left some points there. Roman says, I just think at the moment with Lorenzo's bad form, Dybala will be better in a deeper role while giving space to Ola on the right. Well, that's a good shout too. I like that. Lorenzo with Dybala deeper, maybe on the left there or on the right, and then I should say on the right, and Solbakken slipping in on the left. I could see that. I could definitely see that work. Or maybe Dybala as a false nine. That would be kind of wild. Matt says, why are people saying it's a soft pen? I agree. I don't think it was. I think it was a legitimate penalty, I gotta say. And Kaza says, very possible for Roma to beat Juve. Roma have more chances of beating them than Cremonese, which is crazy but true. Yeah, it is. Expect a bit more of an open game against Juventus, for sure. At least that's what I'm hoping, as Juventus has to go out and attack. They're probably looking up. Their aim is definitely to get back into like Europa League standings. They're in 8th last time I checked, right? Let's check that before signing off just now. And Juventus, 33 points, which is 11 behind Roma. But out of 6th spot, they are 9. So Atalanta with 41. It's definitely obtainable for Juventus. So I'm hoping it's an open game and Roma can go out and score some great goals. What would it be for Paolo to score against his former team in front of the Stadio Olimpico, in front of the Curva Sud? That would be massive. So keep your fingers crossed for that one. We'll talk soon. We'll be back during the week for sure. And thank you. See you then. Ciao.